The government has decided to bite the bullet by increasing rail fares. So is a diesel and LPG price hike coming up next? That's the big question we're asking on We Mean Business today. I'm Shweta Rajpal-Kohli. Let me introduce my guests on the show. S Pandey, former Petroleum Secretary, joins us. Also, Santanu Saikia, CEO and editor of Indian Petro Group. Also joining us, Mr. S Radhakrishnan, former CMD and Director Marketing of BPCL. Many thanks all of you for joining us. Mr. S Pandey, let me start by asking you, the government is considering a phased increase in diesel prices. The proposal, we're told, is to increase diesel prices by 1 rupee per litre per month. Do you think this is politically and economically feasible?
Well, as far as economics is concerned, there is no doubt that some increase is inescapable. If you see what has been happening, particularly for the last 2 years, the crude oil prices have sustained over $100. In the year 11-12, I think it was more than $110, the average. In the current year also, that is more or less the range. Now, this has been really unprecedented in the history. Beyond 100, it has never sustained for the full year. Even in 2008, when it had touched the peak of 160, well, the average was much lower at around 83, 84, something like that. So 30% increase over 10, 11 prices we have been witnessing consistently for the last 2 years. Now, the prices of products have not been correspondingly revised. We import 84% of crude of our requirement from outside. So what is the alternative? You have to raise the prices. But then if you raise it at once, like supposing you decontrol diesel today, then the prices will spurt by about 10 rupees a litre. Today it is around 47 rupees a litre. Now that will not only cause much hardship to the consumers, but also it will cause much increase in inflation. Therefore, if incrementally it is increased, well, that is one option. I do not know what the government is going to do, but some increase in diesel prices, in LPG prices, in kerosene prices is inescapable, because taxes also have been reduced. As far as taxes, central taxes are concerned, it was really scaled down last time, and now there is not too much scope. So I think some increase in prices is inescapable.
All right, Mr. Radhakrishnan, explain to us why it is almost inevitable that the government will go ahead with a diesel and LPG price hike. Inevitable is the term that was used by the government even to explain a hike in rail fares. Explain to us why the government simply has to go ahead with this very politically tough decision.
The basic issue today is the under recoveries, which are, I think the figure is over 163,000 crores. I mean, that kind of money to be paid to the oil companies or to be made good by the oil companies is, I think, virtual impossibility. The net impact today is that the oil companies today have borrowings of which have crossed about 180,000 crores. They are unable to invest because they don't have any surpluses to invest into the future for taking care of the future demand in terms of refineries, in terms of marketing facilities such as pipelines, depots, installations, LPG bottling plants. So there is, I think, a very clear need. There is a stage may be reached when the companies will, I think, reach a stage of having borrowings which will even impact the Indian banking system. So I think it's a must that the prices are raised so that the under recoveries are down and the companies start showing a healthy balance sheet, not for rewarding the investors per se, but in terms of even making sure that its capex can be taken care of and business as usual can be carried on. The oil companies have in the past been one of the most efficient sectors of the economy, and for them to continue to work in the same efficient way, it is a must that they are freed from this having to subsidize the prices of diesel, especially LPG and kerosene.
Clearly, all of us here on the panel understand the economic rationale behind it, but remember, there's politics that always comes in the way, and hiking petroleum product prices is always a political decision also. Santanu Saikia, I'd like you to talk a little about how soon can we expect the government to bite the bullet, the political window of opportunity that the government has really right now, given the fact that it seems to be sending out the signal that it is committed to going forward with some of those economic decisions that are very, very critical. And also today there was expectation that the government would take up the possibility of a hike in petroleum products, but that's something that did not happen. So is it likely to happen as early as next week?
It's a political hot potato. Everyone knows it. As spoken by the earlier speakers, the subsidy level is going to touch about 160,000 crores, and it's a really very large figure. The recommendation to gradually increase the price of sensitive petroleum products was actually given by Dr. Vijay Kelkar in a report in September last year, where he talked about eliminating the subsidy on diesel within the next 2 years, of eliminating the subsidies on LPG and kerosene over the next 2 years. And he had given a roadmap by which you can do it. For example, in diesel, he wanted a 50% elimination in the current year itself, and the rest by next year. In LPG, for example, he wanted it to be reduced or completely eliminated by in the next 2 years. In kerosene, to about 1/3 by 2014-15. But that's a roadmap, and what the Petroleum Ministry has essentially done is to fill in the roadmap. How exactly are you going to reach the recommendations or achieve the recommendations which have been suggested by Dr. Kelkar? So eventually what the government is going to decide is going to be something that has to be seen. Politically, as you already know, the cap on subsidized LPG cylinders has now been raised from 6 to 9, and it's likely to be raised again. The government finds it very, very difficult to raise to increase prices of petroleum products because it's politically there is a big backlash against such increases. Of course, I don't see the Kelkar Committee roadmap being implemented at all. Even to be able to bring in incremental increases, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, the roadmap has already not been followed, and it's going to be very, very difficult. Eventually, the government would rather allow the oil companies to suffer than to sort of anticipate or look at a backlash from people in general.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.